Number 5. A little backstory. I'm a 20-year-old, short, petite female working at Subway, and I can't help but be nice to anyone even if they creep me out. I feel bad usually. About a year ago, we had this guy who was 35 or 40 years old who would come in every day for lunch. He was fascinated by my stretched ears and few piercings I had on my face and always asked questions. He would sit down after I rang him out and watch me from his table for 2 hours nonstop, just staring at me while I helped other customers. This goes on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask me for my number, saying he has plugs and tunnels he wants to give me and see me wearing them in my ears, and I always politely declined. One day, I'm alone in the store because my manager had to run to the bank. We were really slow that day, so I was just in the back messing around on my phone. I heard the door chime, looked up, yet no one was there. Then I saw the man walk past the front of the store really quickly, like he was in a hurry. The store phone rings. "Thanks for calling Subway. How can I help you?" "This is the girl with the nice ears, right?" Yes, who is this?" "Are you alone in the back room right now? Are you working by yourself?" At this point, I got really creeped out and knew it was him. I hung up and texted my manager the situation so she would hurry back. He called again, this time asking me very weird questions like what I would do with him in a room with the door locked, if I had a boyfriend, why I was playing hard to get, etc. My manager gets back and I tell her everything. In the middle of the lunch rush, he calls again. This time my manager answers, and to this day she never told me what he said, but the look on her face made my spine shiver. She told him if he ever called or showed up here, she would call the police. I thought that was the end of it, but alas, I was wrong. 1 week later, I'm clocking out and getting ready to walk to my car parked in the front, and when I look outside, I see him standing by my car and looking inside of it. I was an idiot and left the back door unlocked. I watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in my fucking back seat and do God knows what to me when I got in. My manager locked the front door of our store and called the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of the car and he was arrested. On him was a butcher knife, rope, and a rag with chloroform on it. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would probably be dead right now. Number 4. I have a service dog that I take everywhere with me. He's a coonhound boxer mix, so he's very large with a loud, ferocious bark. Many people have exclaimed in fright upon seeing me walk him on the sidewalk. One little girl even burst into tears when she saw him. Naturally, I take him for walks as often as possible. There is a huge 4-acre dog park by my house that has a few acres of forest and trails behind it. The area is a leash-only zone, but I typically let my dog off the leash since I hardly ever see anyone on the trails. My dog also listens very well to me and he never goes out of sight. A couple of weeks ago, the weather was very nice. At dusk, I decided to take my dog to the park since I figured it would be quiet and peaceful. When we arrive, I notice that there are only 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot, but the park is seemingly empty. Relaxed, I take my dog's leash off and head into the forest. At this point, the sun has already begun to set, casting the forest in a murky purple tinge. After walking for about 20 minutes, I begin to hear someone skulking in the forest around me. I feel eyes on my back but shake off the chilling feeling of being watched. I keep telling myself that it must just be someone walking on the trails somewhere beside me, and that I should mind my own business. But still, I can't shake off the feeling that I'm being stalked. At this point, my dog isn't directly by my side, but a few feet ahead of me sniffing in the underbrush. To clarify, my dog is black, reddish brown, and white, so in the dimness of dusk, he's rather hard to spot on the forest floor. As the sunlight fades, I begin to notice the unmistakable noise of twigs snapping, coming closer out of the forest towards me. From which direction it's coming, I can't tell. Now, my dog is very protective of me. He also has a ton of anxiety, so upon hearing a stranger approach from the darkness, he sprints to the source of the movement and starts growling and barking. Naturally, I ran right after him, afraid that he'd just made some random stranger shit themselves, when I stumble upon one eerily calm stranger. Upon seizing my still growling dog, I stutter out an apology to which the stranger gives me no response. Hastily, I turn and run the opposite direction, while my dog refuses to turn his back upon the disturbingly quiet stranger. When I get to the gate leading out of the forest, I realize that something was really off about that person standing in the forest. They were wearing rather generic clothing, but what got my attention was the fact that I couldn't see their face at all. When I stumbled upon them, in fact, they were covering their face with the tipped-down bill of a baseball cap, and they seemed to be hiding some sort of blunt object behind their back. I couldn't tell what, though. Needless to say, I'm glad I have my dog. Number 3. Until recently, I never realized how creepy this experience actually was, and while it isn't too scary, thinking about it gives me the willies. I was maybe around 8 or 9 when I was visiting my grandparents in Florida, going out on a beautiful summer day to the beach. We had finished up, but as I had rolled around in the sand, I had to use one of the outdoor showers to wash off the sand. As I was rinsing off, I noticed an old man with a camera walking on the sidewalk stop and turn in my direction. He raises his camera and begins snapping pictures of me. I was weirded out at the time but wasn't scared. The man then resumed his walk, like nothing had ever happened. My grandmother found me, and I told her about the man in the pictures. She immediately grew a concerned look on her face and said, "Oh, really?" It never really hit me until now what that man could have been doing. Number 2. My friend has a park right behind his backyard, so basically his yard and his park share a common fence that is tall and wooden. To get to the only entrance of the park, you'd have to go out of his front door and walk around the block and go through the narrow gate opening since the whole front of the park is fenced off. His daughter was bugging me to take her to the park, even though it was already getting dark. This wasn't a big deal. I took her all the time, and it's practically right in their backyard. Soon, we were the only ones left. Then, a man in a van pulled in and parked right next to the entrance gate. I kept my eye on him as she played. He just sat inside his van watching us. I was wondering what he was doing there because he wasn't getting out at all for anything, and there was no one else there, so he wasn't picking anyone up. After a while, I started collecting our things to get ready to go, and then he got out of the van and opened the sliding door. He stood there next to it, still just watching us. I started to get freaked out. To get out of the park, we would have to walk right by him and right by that open van door. But luckily my friend had installed a Little Rascals type of trapdoor device in the fence that separated the park from his yard. We were able to avoid that creep. What still makes me cringe to this day though, is that as soon as we went through the fence, I looked back over and saw that guy jump in his van and peel out of there. I can only imagine what would have happened to us if we didn't just happen to live right there, or if that secret door had never been installed. Number 1. This happened to me at the beginning of the year. I had just moved to my new apartment in a shady part of town. However, I was nonetheless excited to be out on my own. About 3 weeks in, they started shooting a TV show called Boom in front of my house. For those of you that watch, it's those crappy little green apartments. And I was told if I moved my car, I would get a bit of money. I was scheduled to work that day anyway, so I agreed and left for the day. Around 4 o'clock was when I was told that they would be done shooting for the day, so I made my way home. Upon arrival, I noticed a silver PT Cruiser blocking off my driveway. I was a little irritated because I was ready to go home and play with my kids. At least that was the plan. So I parked my car on the side of the road next to the building, walked up to the car, and tapped on the driver's side window of the car. The driver rolled it down. He was an older man, maybe in his 60s, with a horrible receding hairline, had a beer gut, and was wearing a short sleeve uniform shirt that had an FBI patch and some stripes sewn on. Upon a second glance, I noticed that there was some sort of computer in his car. This struck me as odd, but I ignored it and I put on the biggest smile I could and said, "Could you please move your car? It's blocking my driveway." He returned my smile and immediately apologized, saying he was just guarding the wiring for the cameras. He moved his car, but still not far from my house. I should tell you now that the complex I lived in had designated parking spots for all guests, no exceptions. I finally made my way into the driveway and got my kids out. As I did, I noticed the gentleman in the car was staring at me, but trying to be discreet about it. I got my kids in the house as fast as physically possible and locked the door behind me. A few hours go by, and I decided to take my children on a walk. I loaded them into the wagon and walked outside. The man was still there and still staring at my apartment, almost as if he was waiting for me to come out. Other members of the stage crew happened to be there, so I walked to the closest one to me and asked him about the silver PT Cruiser. To my dismay, the guy had no idea who the man in the car was, and informed me that all stage crew was told specifically to park in the designated visitors parking. I began to panic. Who the fuck was this guy, and why was he really parked in front of my house? I rushed my children back inside and made sure all of my windows and doors were locked tight, even making sure to put the loudest baby toys I could find in front of the door in case of a break-in, and then I waited. About 11 o'clock at night, I decided to peek out my window to see if the man was still there. If he really was a part of the stage crew, he would already be gone by now. But he wasn't. He was still parked directly in front of my house, staring it down. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my cell phone and called the police and explained the situation to them. They sent somebody over immediately. As soon as they got off the phone, I began to pray. I prayed that the police would not let this man harm me or my girls. The police came. I heard a very soft conversation, which erupted into yelling and screaming. 30 minutes passed. The yelling finally stopped, and I heard some cars speed away. When I looked out my window, the security guard from my apartment was parked in the same spot the man in the PT Cruiser had been parked in, and he was staring off into the distance. A wave of relief came over me, and I decided I wanted to smoke. However, the second I got outside, the security guard looked in my direction and said, "You need to be inside now." Puzzled, I asked why. The security guard told me that the elderly man had in fact not been a part of the stage crew, and nobody had any idea of what his real intentions were, so he was to stay and watch the apartments, and he was specifically told not to let me go outside. I haven't seen the guy since, but every once in a while, at about 1 at night, if I'm outside, I can see a silver PT Cruiser drive slowly by my house, and then when it passes, speed out of the neighborhood. I lock my doors at night, and I keep at least one light on. That's all I can do until I move. Hey everybody, this is Sino. In case anybody didn't know how to pronounce the name, it's Sino. I got it from a Café Tacuba album, and that's my name I use when I record music, and that's the name I'm using for this channel, Sino Studios. I wanted to make a video thanking everybody for getting me to 100 subscribers. That happened on Saturday, but now I'm at 144, just 4 days later. I never thought that I would get this big, this quick, and 100 subscribers may not mean a lot to most people, but it means a lot to me. It's showing that you guys care and you guys like the stuff I'm putting out and you like the content, so keep it coming. I'm working on getting my setup finalized. I'm going back and forth on quality, so I apologize for that. Keep sending me your comments and suggestions, and I'll set up an email if you guys want to start sending me your own stories. But let me know what you guys think. Thanks for the support. Thanks for everything. Thank you. Good night, everybody.